Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good. I've had the pleasure of speaking to our next guest many times over the years, and I've asked her to, I think she was already keeping up on it, but I said, hey, you got to watch The Valley, and she is caught up on The Valley, and she did watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, the reunion. Thankfully, for her own mental health, she does not watch Love Island USA, so we can skip right over that, but we will talk about these two things because I want to get her opinion. She is amazing. She is a coach. She's an ex-forensic therapist. She specializes in neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and epigenetics, and she has a private practice, which we've talked about many times, and I'm sure we'll talk about it through the course of this hour. But please welcome back to the show, Lauren Clayton. Lauren, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ryan. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you. I always hesitate. Like, I feel like you do very important work, and then to ask you to watch reality TV, I always feel bad about that. But at the same time, it's probably kind of good based in the work that you do to see examples of things that you talk about with your own clients.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I watch it anyway. And when I was in grad school, we had these videos that were so cheesy that would demonstrate borderline or narcissistic personality. Now you could just watch reality TV. It's amazing.
That's not a bad idea. Why don't they use that in coursework more often?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they have to. I'm sure they do nowadays.
That is so. I mean, is there? And this is a very remedial question. There's so many different kind of disorders and personality types, but is there like a top three that most of us exhibit one or more of?
That most people exhibit?
Yeah, most people. Like, I feel like we're all dealing with something, even if it's undiagnosed.
Probably depressive or anxious disorder we have at some point, anxiety is, worrying about the future. Depression is a preoccupation with the past or something that happened in the past or a certain trauma. So we could have that at certain points. Now, personality disorder, that kind of ranges. A lot of people, narcissism is really common, and there is healthy narcissism. But it's just such a common defense mechanism that
what's healthy narcissism? Like, who would exhibit that in, like, say, the Valley?
Oh, in the Valley? Gosh. Okay. Now
is there any healthy narcissism in the Valley at all? Like, is Danny Bucco healthy narcissism? What is healthy narcissism?
I mean, Danny, we could get into that, but I think, Danny, it's kidding. I mean, it's interesting, because the last time we talked about the Valley, it was season 1 and was just a few episodes in, and we were talking more about another show. But yeah, Danny's alcoholism is getting, exposed more. He has what's called what looks like episodic or what's called periodic alcoholism to deal with, some of the emotional burdens that he has that he's been pretty open about. But healthy narcissism, what's his name? Luke. I think Luke is pretty, balanced in a lot of ways, especially this season. He seems more kind of like stable and grounded in a way. Like his kind of log line is, I love Kristen. I love my partner, and I want to have a child with my partner. That seems to be his storyline. And I got to say, it's really refreshing when you counterbalance that with the other characters for somebody to just be on message. And I always find it interesting. The people that are on message are sometimes less exciting to watch because we are used to bombastic attitudes and gestures from all of these characters. So when you see, it kind of throws us off balance a little bit to watch somebody with just a plan. Yeah. I mean, he's pretty stable, and you could say the same about Jason too. Like, he's pretty, there's not a lot of hyperbolic personality, things all over the place, but that also, the narcissist, the borderline traits, all of the histrionics is what makes reality TV. It makes us want to watch. So
that's an interesting point about Jason. And if you were to actually, because they're kind of at loggerheads, Janet and Dodie, but it's interesting, their partners seem, by comparison, fairly stable. And is there something in that about the partners that we choose that they can exhibit qualities that we do not have? And obviously opposites attract and all of that stuff. But is there something in there of like, these men are looking for partners that are able to express emotions or attitudes that they can't?
Absolutely. So All of the above. A lot of times you will see someone that is more histrionic with someone that's more stable, and sure that because they could handle it. And it could also be, we pick people based on things from our childhood. I know that sounds kind of creepy sometimes, but it's either unresolved trauma, the parent, or the characteristics in a parent or both parents that we have the most unresolved conflict with. We will seek those things out in someone else and unconsciously try to resolve them. We're continuously playing out that old trauma, but the attempt of the brain and nervous system is to resolve it. So there's that. And I don't really see a lot of that with Jason and Janet or Luke and Kristen, but who knows? Because we're not, of course. So, but both of those things can be true.
Is it bothersome to you at all? And I don't mean just me, but like the audience at large. There is so much therapy speak and taking, like mental health is so on the minds of everybody, so much more nowadays than it ever has been, which I think is so positive. But at the same time, we are so quick to diagnose, to judge, to all of these things of like, oh, that's a narcissist. I got that. Oh, they're love bombing. They're this, they're that. Is that a positive overall? Is that a net positive? Or is it very frustrating for somebody that comes from a professional background to be like, slow down. We can't really diagnose these things. We can only, go by how we feel, but we can't say clinically that this is true.
I think it's a net positive because I like that there's more awareness of it. Like these personality types used to just really be able to take advantage of this. And I saw this a lot in the Mormon culture. Like, I think I told you before, like Mormonism and Mormons are near and dear to my heart because like they were some of my first clients. And I learned a lot about like the underpinnings of a lot of their psychology. But, the men, because of a lot of parts of that culture, and it depends on what kind of Mormons you're talking to, got to get away with a lot of things. So I love the awareness around that, and like, hey, one, you're not crazy. If you got gaslit by someone like this, you're not crazy. That's a normal reaction to have. So I think it's a net positive and a really healthy thing because a lot of us feel really alone and we stay stuck in these relationships, suffering, accumulating health problems. I like that it's being talked about. It's one of the reasons I do not diagnose in my practice. I kind of switched from classic psychology to more coaching because it doesn't help to just diagnose someone. It helps to be like, hey, these are the characteristics. That's why I say narcissistically defended or borderline characteristics. So you understand what's going on. But yeah, to pigeonhole someone to a diagnosis, it's like, it's not that helpful.
Well, I mean, Jax is throwing out diagnoses all over the place. He's like, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. And I'm like, and unfortunately, the mental health facility can't come forward and speak about any of this of like, you know what? We actually didn't say that. We actually didn't say this either. So he can go out and say anything, which, I am so conflicted when I talk about Jax or now anybody as I move further into my career of doing this, is that there is this part of me that wants to believe in everybody and that wants to believe everybody has a second chance, a third chance, and all of these. But at the same time, you see so much behavior over the years that it's so hard to really go there. And especially with somebody like Jax, because he's had so much goodwill over and over again since the year 2013 on reality TV, that I don't want to say he's a lost cause, but my God, it makes him hard to root for him. And now it gets to a point where it's actually scary to watch him at times when it comes to his relationship with Brittany. Absolutely.
And it's like, I was thinking the same thing. It's like, because he has a lot of narcissistic characteristics, right? And
what?
Shocking.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks. This is the first time this has been said.
No, but like, what do they need? They need validation. They need constant attention. And so reality TV is providing that platform for him. And so it's kind of like, okay, is the whole thing just being enabled? And, you see a lot of, I love how Brittany is stepping up and she's getting her sparkle back, like she talks about.
Yeah, I'm going to get my sparkle back. I don't need you, Jax Taylor.
Yeah. But it is true. Like when you are with someone like that, they really, and she talks about on the after show how she was breaking out in hives every day. Your health, it's not just your mental health. Like it starts to affect your health because you have to remember your brain, your nervous system, your brain doesn't stop here. It's not just in your skull. It goes all the way down. Your brainstem goes through your nervous system. So that's why we get sick when we have unresolved trauma or we're in daily stress all the time. And, a lot of people, I love helping people when they're like, I want to get back to me, and I could see them physically change. That is very rewarding to do. But, they come in just like looking haggard and just so beaten down, because you are beaten down. So
yeah. Or, I was even thinking about Michaela on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. How her skin, like she was breaking out everywhere and rashes and all of this stuff. And you think about what she has gone through, which she's been very brave about talking about in the second season with sexual abuse at a very young age. And you're like, my God, of course your body is falling apart. Because also with the Mormon religion, you're taught a very specific and certain thing. So you're holding on to all of this, and then to let it out. I talked to her a couple months ago, and she was like, things are actually clearing up now, which I found very interesting.
And she even looks better from the first season till now. She looks a lot better. And I love watching her healing journey, but we have to remember, your skin is your biggest organ. It's your largest organ. It covers your body, and it's very connected to the nervous system, right? Like, ooh, I got chills. Like, your skin is always reacting to things, and it's how we detox. It's one of the main ways we detox. So when you have unresolved trauma or stress, your skin is going to be highly affected. And so, of course, it's coming out through her skin. And, in season 2, going to Michaela, I freaking love, she's in her anger phase of healing. In grief and in healing, we have to go through an anger phase, and she is all up in it. A lot of it's being directed at Whitney.
And she's throwing it on Whitney. Yeah, she's throwing she's really speaking her mind. And Whitney is, and I think Whitney does deserve it to some degree. Sure. But it is interesting how free she feels to really say how, that she does not like Whitney.
Right. And Whitney is just, the perfect target right now because of the storyline, and it's how it's intersecting with her healing. And she has a right to be, like we said, like there is, like, rightfully so. But I like it because anger is this emotion, because we have depression, we have these heavier, like the grief, the sadness, the denial. And then when you get to anger, it's that like middle emotion in terms of healing and grief and all of that kind of like can jettison you like just to another level of healing that is good. And it's like, you better get out of that person's way, but let them be angry. And I always tell my clients when they're in that phase, I'm like, feel your feelings, get angry, but I'm going to make sure you don't get stuck, because you don't want to be bitter old, like angry.
Yeah, and you also, I would imagine, do not want to get so in love with that anger that you hold on to it like you hold on to everything, you just spew anger for the rest of your life.
No, that's what I was just saying. Like when I work with my clients, I'm like, you can be angry, but notice like this is kind of like a little fire under your ass that's going to move you towards these other levels of emotions that we want to get to, that you don't even have access to because you've been in these heavy feelings or you've been suppressing certain things. But so you don't want to get stuck in anger, because you will, it can, literally change your appearance. So we don't want to become bitter, old, mean, whatever, but like use that anger to move you upward. It's
funny. Like, maybe we as we get older, we get wrinkles and all that stuff. Maybe it's not our bodies dying on a cellular level. Maybe it's just that life is beating us down, and it's all the tragedy and the feelings that just like our face is taking a beating and becoming wrinkly. I know that's actually not true, but it is interesting to think about the people that look amazing without plastic surgery and kind of accoutrement in that area. It's like maybe they're just actually solid.
No, part of that is true. You do age faster because of emotional stress and other things. And I have thought that, the Mormon wives on the show, does Layla seem like a 24-year-old? Like, I forget that she's 24. Like all of these women,
they're so young.
Jessie is 32 years old. I thought that she was like 45. Like, you know what I mean? And I mean that just because of like, not how they look, they're all so beautiful, but I mean, just like, they just seem like so much more mature. And I think you were having kids at a certain age, and there's all these things put on you in the Mormon culture about how women are supposed to be that they're breaking out of. That's why they're interesting to watch.
Well, that's what even the reunion, them talking about their experiences.
Yes.
And it's like, man, if any of these girls had gone to college, they might not have had to deal with any of this, because they would have had that natural kind of learning from other people that you get in college and in mingling, and even their sexuality, kind of being able to explore that. So to me, it feels like a lot of Arrested Development, when Taylor Frankie Paul is talking about, the soft swinging and things of that nature. She speaks about it so aggressively and with such language that it comes off like a 14-year-old, that gets to cuss around their friends. And you're like, wow, you've kind of frozen at a certain age. Yet at the same time, you have kids, you're a mom, you're a businesswoman. Everybody at that reunion is going to make more money than I do in the next 10 years, just like point blank. But you're wondering, is anybody psychologically helping them move through these huge emotions? Because I think Nick Viall did a fine job as host, but he's not going to be able to work through this with them in a real way.
No, and there has to be a willingness. So Taylor is one of the few in that show that seems like immature, like seems actually younger than she is, just like you said. And that is a choice. From what I can see, I feel like she has some borderline features of, like the histrionics, being all of the things, right? The sexual stuff and the black and white thinking, her whole thing with Dakota, in my opinion, and Nick talked about it a little bit on the show. It's kind of like, okay, how much are you going to use this, keep Dakota in this place and kind of punish him in that way, but which is true. And underneath that, though, I think that she has guilt and shame from the swinging thing, and that
which was with a different partner, which was with her,
totally.
So it is interesting from that perspective with Dakota because Dakota also a heroin user that is he's talking about being clean for the first time and not even caring about sex at all. But when you do not have heroin, you're trying to put something in there to fill you up. And that was it for a time. Now, I don't feel like that Dakota is completely in the right, but I did understand that aspect of trying to fill yourself up with other things. But it is interesting, to your point, Taylor Frankie Paul keeps going back with him and kind of playing with his emotions when she's not even dealt with the grief of the actual soft swinging with her first partner.
It's not even, it's the grief and not just the grief. What's underneath that also is the guilt and shame that Taylor has not dealt with. So I feel like, keeping Dakota in this place, look, I was victimized. And it's kind of like, okay, so everyone can forget, or at least Taylor, maybe so I can forget about how bad I feel about the swinging thing and being caught for it. And so I think that there's these other, and also I do think and this is more of a borderline feature that there's a little bit of, I want to say addiction, because that's what it is, to victimhood. So it's kind of like, oh my God, Dakota, you you made me, you did this to me and now I can't trust you. And because borderline people have this whole thing with they can push boundaries. They can go, whatever with someone else's husband, but you can't do that to them. And so there's this whole, I'm being victimized. Dakota did this to me. It's kind of like, girl, okay, you got caught swinging and then you decided to date someone that openly told you that he was newly sober from heroin, and in AA culture and sobriety culture, and I'm sure Dakota already knows this, you're not supposed to date anyone for a year because those addictive pathways get rerouted to other people, to sex addictions, to other things. All you get to do is focus on your sobriety and that's what he was saying. He was just I was trying to get that same type of heroin.
Yeah, he said he was also trying to actually learn who he was for the first time, and I don't know if you watched Summer House, but Carl Radke on Summer House dealt with this as well. And, obviously we saw the engagement break apart with Lindsay Hubbard because in a sense, I always said Carl is just still figuring out who he is. So to throw another person on that and to rely on them or to make them part of your personality when you still are trying to figure out what your personality is so dangerous, even though I don't think it's malicious to, you're not setting out to destroy people, but there's going to be a lot of casualties in the midst of your discovery. And I would assume that's part of the reason why they don't suggest having a partner for a year.
Absolutely. And I think a year is bare minimum. I mean, you're barely getting to know yourself at that point. And like he said, and this is another thing where addiction really mirrors narcissism. He's like, I didn't care. I don't know if you remember when Dakota said that his ex-wife caught him using, she opened the bathroom door and he's like, I felt nothing. All I cared about was drugs. And so it's kind of that same thing of this is all I care. I don't care about myself. Like when you're using,
Yeah.
you really don't care about yourself. So you think you're going to care about another partner or, so, I don't know. I get it that Taylor felt betrayed, but at the same time, he did tell you like, hey, this is where I'm coming from. I'm just fresh out of,
Yeah, but
so
when
like,
has
what
any of us
respected?
actually listened to anything anybody said and like gone
No.
along with it? Like, even
Well,
with Jax Taylor, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we
yeah.
now have documented proof that Jax Taylor is who he is since 2013. Will that stop women or even men still from sliding in this dude's DMs and pretty much saying, let's hang out? It will not stop them. Like, it will not stop them at all. So I feel like even when you tell somebody or show somebody, it is still like a 50-50 if that person's going to listen to what you're saying, because they're on their own journey of destruction or hoping that they can change somebody.
Exactly. And that's why I'm kind of getting bored of Taylor and Dakota. It's kind of like when they were for instance, at the reunion and they're talking about it again. It's kind of like, even like Taylor's stepdad, which is like her dad, it's like, you're the idiot. Like,
yeah, but Taylor's come on, Lauren, you agreed with Taylor's stepdad of like, look at you. Like all that family was coming down on Taylor in that scene. You thought that was.
I think because I know personality types like this, and then you just get so like their addiction to drama. They've done this a million times, and it's like, I'm the victim. And it's like, at what point are you going to not go to therapy and just sit there and talk, but actually do the work and heal and get better and stop like telling the story? Because we're watching it and it seems harsh, but like, think about how many times they've heard this story. And then she gets pregnant, and then this, and then that. And then, so it's kind of like you get to
you're adding context that we don't get to see in that scene. So
yeah.
A lot of people would have to really go through that kind of mental gymnastics to be like, oh, I then would understand an explosion by her family. But to a casual viewer, and even to me in that scene, it came off wildly unsupportive and almost blaming her when Dakota was messing with her emotions, even though he's coming off a drug,
No, I know it did. But I'm just telling you, like, I work with those people all the time. And that's where that explosive, like, anger that looked really insensitive came from, like when the stepdad was doing that. But like, families get I've seen families and friends. I've had people that were friends at one point do this, and I'm like, I can't do this with you anymore, and it comes off like mean and everything, but it's like, I can't be your supply, because it's kind of like, oh, poor you. Like, it feels like that, behavior that Taylor is demonstrating. Those type of people are always pulling for a poor you're the victim, blah, blah, blah type of thing. Let's ignore all the bad stuff that you did, like the swinging. We're not going to, oh, poor little baby Taylor, like that type of thing is what they're going for. So I'm kind of like, I can just see it. Like, I remember when I was watching season 1, I was like, oh my God, this is, anyway. So I'm just kind of like, I'm like, Taylor, just do the work, go to therapy if you are really going to therapy, and actually, like, let's go. Let's do some work.
Well, I mean, I think it's really hard when you get as successful as she has gotten, or Mom Talk or whatever, that it's really hard when you're that, you're getting that much money and that much success all at once, to be like, well, why do I need to work on myself? Things are going pretty well in terms of what we are told a good life is. Like, you might feel empty inside and anger and all of these emotions, but if you're getting more money than, like, she's probably made more money than her family's made in their lifetime at this point, that's really hard to be. And also then I would imagine being a paranoid about, like, well, am I going to screw up the special sauce if I fix myself too much? Right. And you're like, I'm in your 20s. I'll fix myself in my 30s. Like, I would imagine the crazy thoughts that would go through your head.
Taylor is 30 years old.
Oh, Taylor's 30 years. See, I always like think of them as like 24, 25, except for Jesse, but Taylor is 30 years old.
No, all of them seem like a lot like their disposition. Maybe, I think, what's her name? Like, I don't know why I'm blanking. The one that Whitney. No, Whitney. Like, she seems like about her age, but like they all seem to like be so much more mature, especially Layla. I can't believe, like, I'm like, she's 24, but like, except for Taylor, she's 30 and she does act like a 14-year-old, like you were saying.
Now, in terms of the soft swinging and sexuality in general, is there any kind of thought where, she's participating in these things to have some sort of be able to reclaim some sort of power of being able to use sexuality. And by the way, sexuality can be so enjoyable, and I don't sex shame. I'm like, whatever, if everybody's down for it and mature about it. But, is there some sort of like reclaiming power, or is it just kind of trying to push against the restrictions of the Mormon church and what we can and can't do? Is there any, is that possible? Is that line of thinking possible for her?
Yes, all of the above. So, like I was saying before, I do think that she has some like borderline characteristics. So they love to push boundaries. They love to be like they want everyone to have boundaries, but they want to push them and go outside them all of the time. I know that doesn't make sense, but it's kind of like how they think. And so I think that that's part of it. And then the thing with swinging in general, and this is just like what I know from my private practice, is that it could be a way to numb out. Like, you drink too much, and it's like, I feel like a lot of the people that I've worked with, they're using sex to like in this swinging thing to cover something up in their relationship. And I have never in my, seen it where it's kind of like both people that are swinging or open are equally comfortable with it. Yeah. And I mean, to the point where sometimes it's like one just cries themselves to sleep and the other one's like, that was great. Or sometimes it's like one's way more into it than the other. That is just like based on what I've seen. And the other person's trying to go along with it for a myriad of reasons because
because so you have the Mormon wives that like this is very taboo in their religion, but then if you go over to the Valley, how many people have we heard have slept with Jax Taylor over the years, or any of those men, Tom Schwartz, Tom Sandoval, any of those, and it's kind of like a laugh, it's kind of like LOL, but then you think about like, well, there's potentially 1,000 women and maybe some men out there that have horrific stories that they've really like messed with women's minds. I mean, for the sexual experiences that I've had in my life, which no one wants to hear about, but I'm like, they've always been something where it's like, you hear back about it. Like, and if you do not, like whether it's good or whether it's bad, like there is a certain responsibility that it seems like when you think about the men of the Valley, they have never had to answer for at all. And you're like, is there literally 1,000 women out there that are like, oh, he fucked me up bad. He fucked me up real bad. And we just haven't heard.
I'm sure. And I wonder why, because I know Brittany, she talks about the things that she's heard from other women. And that is just something that like narcissists do. They need a constant supply of like validation. It's this like never ending like black hole of validation. And they use sex for that. They use attention, praise, but sex is a big form of, validation that people use.
But do women also then, is there any kind of awareness that since these men are pseudo celebrities of like, well, I guess I'm not going to let it fuck me up too much because I got to sleep with a reality star. I always wonder how they talk themselves through a night with Jax Taylor.
Oh, well, okay. This fascinates me because there are women that also, like the Menendez brothers, like they get so many, like these big people by the
way, one of the Menendez brothers, I think, has been married twice in prison. Like they've gone through a divorce.
No. So there are like, and I actually want to talk about this in relationship to like codependency and Brittany, but like there is an addiction to these type of people that is like, it's labeled codependency because that's what all the symptoms go under. But like when you are fascinated, when you want the attention, like I can fix him. Like we kind of like joke about that, but there are people like their brains are like, I could fix them. So they will go after the people in prison, like, oh, the Tiger King guy. He's been married a couple times.
He's like, multiple times in prison. Yeah. I mean, like, he's like, I want to introduce you to my new husband. Like, it's all a couple of those in the last year.
So people love that. There are people that like, okay, the worse, the more sociopathic, the more narcissistic, I'm into it. And those people find each other and they're on their healing journey as well. But yeah, so it's just supply. It's just more supply. So go after those people, Jax.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he will. I mean, but also Brittany, we've seen through Vanderpump Rules into this, I would imagine part of her talking to herself about Jax was always, I can fix him, was always, I'm different. I'm the special sauce.
Yeah.
I'm going to build this beautiful life that I see in my head. And he says he wants this, even though, like, I mean, I've said since, the Vanderpump Rules season where he slept with Faith, was that he told you, he put it out there, even in that audio tape that we never got to hear, was that he was not attracted to Brittany, did not want to have a family with Brittany, all of these things. And then he got caught, and then he doubled and tripled down on everything. And now we see, we see him making comments on the after show of like, well, I didn't want to sleep with her. Yeah, I wasn't attracted to her at all. Or like on Watch What Happens Live, he's throwing these kind of comments out that are so hurtful, especially in retrospect. There's no like ability for Jax to maintain any kind of like ounce of respect for himself or other people. So he says the nastiest things when he's the one that needs the help, but he'll still lash out. I mean, I think not that it's Brittany's fault for believing him, but he did say his initial feelings all along.
He did. And the thing is that, in the love bombing phase, people don't realize, I call them like drug dealers. They're the drug dealers, and then they are the drug. They'll study you, they'll love bomb you. And so you have these emotions that are comparable to heroin from like the studies that they've done of like, you're getting addicted to this person. You're releasing all kinds of dopamine.
Which is kind of like Dakota with Taylor Frankie Paul. Like that is like that back and forth is like getting your fix. Like if I can get Taylor to talk to me or kiss me at like the Stagecoach Music Festival, that is feeding that kind of desire.
And I think that she totally knows that she's doing that. So yeah, it's the same type of thing. And so it's kind of like, and I love Brittany, and I think she's a little bit more, I don't think it's like as manipulative, on Jax's side, it's manipulative. But anyway, like, I think that she really fell for him, and she's like, I'm not that stupid, like, whatever, like, Kentucky girl anymore. And, I love her arc. I love her trajectory. I just really love Brittany, and I love the healing that she's doing right now. And so, but when you are under, like, that spell, as I call it, or under that drug, and I tell my clients, I'm like, your brain is on drugs right now. And they know that too. A lot of them come in hot and they're like, I have this is going to sound so weird, Lauren, but I have an addiction. And I'm like, yes, I know. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, no, I do understand. You have like, you cannot get this person out of your head, even though you hate them. I know the things like it's like the symptoms are like an addiction because you're literally addicted to the person. So logic does not like coincide with that. Plus, on top, I mentioned this before, when you're a woman and you have sex with a man, you're like biologically, these like receptors get turned down in your brain to ignore red flags because your nervous system doesn't know what a situationship or a narcissist is. It's like, I had sex with this person so I could potentially be pregnant. And so I'm going to turn down the red flags to stay with him so he can protect him, provide for me. Your brain, it's only in your limbic system and your amygdala, all those things, like your brain is thinking that. So that's another reason. So, and that's just like with a normal guy.
But you know what, like human bodies have evolved. Have we not, like, can't we evolve to a place where women will not be fooled by this once they have sex? Like,
I mean, that's why it takes so much, but think about it. And most of us have had relationships where your friends are talking all types of logic to you. We've watched a lot of these people. It's like, come on, get it through your head. And you logically know something, but on a biological level, like you're thinking about them in the middle of the night. There's just this other like literal chemical addiction. And I have to tell my clients that like, you have to wash that out of you. It will drain out of you. Just let it, but it's a real thing. And so with women, I do think that we have that other aspect of it, whether or not we have a child with them. And then you have a child with someone and it's just like, then you want to make it work. And so like, that's the scariest part of the Valley for me, right? When you realize they all have kids and they show them. I mean, scary on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but we don't necessarily see their kids as much, where sometimes you almost forget and then you're like, oh my God, they're all mothers. But on the Valley, we see the kids. And Cruz, Jax and Britney's son, it's not a pawn per se, but you're just like, man, what this kid, who they came out with an autism diagnosis with this year, very brave. And Brittany is doing so much to, make sure he has like sensory room and all of this stuff to help him. But like just what that kid is internalizing. Cause I remember internalizing things as a kid and I was always a sensitive kid. But how much stuff you pick up on and you have no language for, you just know that it's a bad feeling. Absolutely. And, that's the thing with kids. And like, I kind of hate talking about it because I know like makes parents feel very guilty, but like children are so smart. They're observing everything. Their nervous systems are just like absorbing so many things. And I mean, kids know pre-verbally. I've had many clients where it's like, oh yeah, the baby was throwing up like when we were fighting, and I'm like, they know, and it's just like, and so a lot of times we as adults, we still have those things stored in our nervous system, and it's kind of like, well, why do I have this reaction? Why do I have this? Why do I have that? Remember, all trauma is getting too much or too little of something. And so even before we knew how to speak or have like quote unquote memories, like our nervous system is still storing those things. So if we could bring an awareness to them, like, okay, maybe there's chaos in the home. Maybe how do I soothe that now? How can I regulate myself that like, so I'm not like seeking out chaos unconsciously or even consciously. So yeah, those are all things that we can regulate and restore and reparent ourselves around. I always say, like, as soon as you become an adult, time to reparent yourself. All the shit you didn't get or got too much of when, we all have it.
Yeah, but I mean, in all honesty, how like what percentage of us is actually dedicated to healing ourselves at all? I mean, a lot of us just let life happen to us and we just go through it. Like we just withstand or try to withstand all the slings and arrows that life throws at us instead of, and I almost feel like it's a privilege sometimes when we're able to focus on our mental health because so many people do not get to, or so many, or maybe that's why we watch these shows because we're so quick to be like, I see it, that's evil, that's bad, but we can't do it for our own lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I like that we can watch these shows and see ourselves in them, and hopefully it inspires, like in the reunion, what Connor talked about with his abuse. And like, I really...
Oh yeah, you guys, if you haven't seen
my God,
the reunion,
so
Whitney's husband, he speaks about sexual abuse, because from the first season, you knew that he was like caught on some dating apps and there was some sexual experiences, and there might've been like, gay and straight sexual experiences with this man, but we really didn't know the full story, just that he was changing hairstyles like every episode on the first season. Now in the second season at the reunion, he comes out and says that he was sexually abused. He had an addiction to pornography, and that was kind of being able to like fill that hole from something that I think was started with the sexual abuse, which was like a hugely brave admission.
Yes.
On so many levels. And actually, do you remember that episode, the second season, where he also spoke at the dinner? Very
yes, I
like
loved
a monologue that I thought was very beautifully said. I mean, I didn't expect it. Where it was like very understanding and very therapized, but in a great way, encouraging the other people at the table that he was sitting with. So what did you think of this admission and then his behavior because of it?
I loved it so much. Okay, so when I'm watching from the first season, I knew that was what was behind this, and like maybe he's bisexual or like I know the trauma that I've worked with men like this, and it's like for whatever reason, it's more acceptable for women to talk about their sexual abuse like that. I mean, you're just an innocent child. Like, I don't know why, but like with men, it's like we have to.
But isn't that sad that we more expect it from women, because obviously it happens to women so much that like we're like we
but
almost assume that women. Oh, but no, it definitely does. It does. No, 100%. But like, I'm just saying that it just seems like overwhelming sometimes. I mean, we're on the day that Diddy got released of like racketeering charges and like all of that stuff, how commonplace that is, but also it happens to men, which this was a great example of.
It was. And I thought it was very brave of him to do. I know it's so much more common than we, I think, know as a society. And it does morph your sexuality. And then if you on top of it, then you're like this, form of Christianity that has all these like very like strict things around sexuality and what's allowed and what's not. And they have a thing called like, he's not gay, like with Mormons they think are gay, like they're called SSA, or like same-sex attraction. So they're not a gay, but we're going to fix that. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's abusive to me. And like, I'm not trying to say anything about the Mormon religion. That feels abusive to me.
I am. I had a friend that was Mormon, Lauren, that actually went on his mission and confessed to unpure thoughts about other men in the training facility, and was sent home. Like literally reported it to the bishop, said, this is what I'm feeling. all giving the faith in God and the power of this and saying, I am dealing with these unholy thoughts. And they just sent him out. They're like, okay, we can't, like how insane is that to feel like what your thought is and what your sexuality is wrong, that it is shameful, that we can't and that the goal is just push it away, marry a woman, start a family. Like, do you know how much you fucked up your generations to come by doing that?
Right.
Sorry to get crazy there.
No, it goes along with, because there is a lot of like weird repressed, and I'm saying weird, I don't like saying the word weird, but it's like a lot of malignant repressed things in the Mormon community. And there's a lot of in different religions, but I'm just talking about Mormonism right now. And like what I love about this show is like this, they're 20 and 30-year-olds, right? And they're kind of like not doing the typical thing that Mormons would by not saying anything, or so it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal just in general for Connor to come out and say what he said, but also being Mormon, like, so proud of him. Like, I just think it's such a big deal. And I hope more men start talking about it, because if it's out in the open, then it doesn't lead to all of this. There's another thing in like AA, like you're as sick as your secrets. And so, you don't want that to develop into more behavior that you're not proud of. Like, wasn't proud of like keeping these secrets from Whitney. And,
well, and Laura, my question to you too is that Whitney, is standing by him and is so accepting of all of this. And Whitney, I think in a lot of ways, well, this is what's so great about life, is that I can see good and bad in everybody. I can see good and bad in myself. I see like it just depends on which day you're going to be on reality TV. But Whitney, for all intents and purposes, was a villain in season 1 and season 2 for a little bit more fleshed out in season 2. But she is standing by her husband. And then once you have something like this, where you have a porn addiction and there is a bisexuality, which there is nothing wrong with that. How do you move forward in a relationship? And then how are you getting those kind of pleasure sensors of the brain, because you're taking away that's the part I think sometimes people have a hard time understanding of. How do you then move through life with a person that is healing, but is always going to want that, or be attracted to that sort of lifestyle, yet is still fighting against it?
Well, and that is something that is navigated. I've literally like had these exact type of situations, like with what's going on with Connor and Whitney. And, your nervous system, it's very confusing, because when these things happen to you as a child, like it's confusing, because from what I've heard and like helped people with, it's like they are aroused by that. And so it's confusing to have a situation where you're being perpetrated by an adult and you're getting aroused by it. And so you have these neural pathways that like later on in life, it's like, okay, well, I still have that. I still get aroused and I'm still attracted to men, or like that type of thing, but I'm also like heterosexual. And so it's like, how do I, and so, every couple decides to handle that differently. And so,
but my thing is, when you watch this couple, do you think it's smart that they actually stay together? Do you think it's smart that this is a union that can work and should work, because, they're honest about their secrets?
They are. And I like how it's not like the traditional abusive Mormon will then get out if you have those thoughts, like that, tyrannical thing. And it's kind of like, no, we love each other. We have a family together. And I do like that about their culture, is like the emphasis on family. And like, so it's like, we're going to figure this out. And so that's their choice right now. And I'm here for it.
It is interesting when you put the restrictions of a religion, and I do think about religion as a lot of restrictions. I mean, obviously it's beautiful and gives a lot of people hope and comfort and solace, but it is interesting, because then you have people that push against it, or like, ooh, I had a sip of alcohol, or ooh, and so they're automatically doing something naughty, and I feel such, I don't appreciate my freedom as much as I should, in that, I'm able to do that anytime I want, and I don't feel guilty about it. I mean, I don't really drink anymore, but I never felt guilt when I did. I never felt like I was going against God. I never felt these things. And I was so lucky to have grown up around a gay man and been able to be exposed to that at a young age, and how normalized that was for me, where it never has been this thing in my head. And I was able to separate my sexuality really easy of like, there was a moment where I was like, damn, I wish I was gay. It would be so easy. Like, I felt like, oh, that would be so awesome. Like I was like, God, that would be cool. But obviously I dressed from Old Navy. So I do not have the style for it. But like, that's my privilege of being able to accept all of these things when all of these people under a religious umbrella, and I'm not just talking about Mormons, they're already coming at it like they are bad if they push against it in any way. Or that's why the soft swinging scandal was such insanity, or even such a big deal that they're going to Swig to get their favorite sodas. And it's like, all of it's like under this naughty, it's like, even in that party, the Halloween party on the second season, that party is going off and you realize none of these people are drunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry. I'm just like, it's really fast. That's why I love The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. It's fascinating.
Oh my gosh. It's fascinating. And it's also kind of like the whole thing, I just think about it in terms of like neuroscience too, and how the brain works. It's kind of like, okay, I can't have alcohol, but I'm going to load myself with sugar all day, like go to Swig multiple times a day. Like, what is worse for you than
they're always getting hot cocoa somewhere. They're like, let's get a hot cocoa,
which has caffeine in it, by the way. And it's kind of like, if you know the history about it, it's like, oh, we can't be stimulated, really. You know what I mean? Like, we need to be stimulated sometimes. And so, I just think that there's an opportunity for balance there. I mean, that's kind of why I like Jessie. It's like, okay, like I could drink every once in a while. I've never seen her like abuse alcohol.
Shit-faced, yeah.
Yeah, like, but I don't know. I do like
it is funny, though, the Jessie crossover with Sheena. I mean, that they're friends, and that's like the Marciano situation that they talk about in the reunion, which part of me is like, is any of this real, or is this just cross-promotion between two Hulu shows? I'm like, what? I get really conspiratorial about it because I'm like, how, in what world? But I love that Sheena was there. I love that Sheena's friends with Marciano from Vanderpump Villa, and also friends with Jessie. And I was like, of course Sheena is like this weird middleman in this situation. But Jessie does seem to live in more of a real world, or the world that a lot of us live in, as opposed to the rest of these ladies. And she has a very successful business in hair care. And I think that was happening before the success of social media, which was the question I wanted to ask you too, is you have all of these women dealing with really intense trauma, and then you throw insanely successful social media presences on there. And when I talked to these ladies a couple months ago, it was interesting. I was talking about hate comments, and I don't even think this was in the interview. It was just us talking before or after. And I was like, oh my God, I got this hate comment today, and it really kind of rocked my world. And they were like deadened to it. They were like, yeah, that's what it is. Like they, even before the show, they would get millions of hate comments on their TikTok videos, and they were so accepting of it. When for me, it still rocks my world if for like, I get a hate. Well, no, but think about it. Like, think about. But this isn't going to make it to air. This is our session right now. I'm joking, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they were so used to it, which I'm like, that's not a normal thing either for like girls in their 20s to just normalize millions of people throwing a hate comment or a comment about their bodies or their sexuality.
Yeah.
And that's on us, the audience as well, which it's this weird chicken and egg thing because these shows are made so we can comment on them.
I think also it has to do with being a woman. Like I have like I have like 16,000 followers on Instagram. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's nothing. But okay, on my YouTube, like I don't like I made this video about like the Wizard Liz thing, because she got cheated on by a narcissist. Like in the YouTube
what thing? Wait,
the YouTube thing? Okay, she's this big YouTuber, right? And she's always like talking about like providing this advice about relationships or whatever. She gets completely conned by this narcissist. They get engaged. She's pregnant with it. And then she's cheated. And then he got caught cheating like a bunch of times. It's like really good, like it's basically like another Bravo show. What's going on? So I did a video about it. And like all of her fans are like, okay, you plastic bitch, blah, blah, blah. Or like if I make like a video about like, I don't know, people are like, eat a burger, bitch. Like, and I'm like, that's all I eat actually. And so like, I'm just kind of like, I'm just like, I just think as a woman, like, you know, and it's other women are like, you know, gay men like that are upset or whatever, like just men that hate women. Not that all gay men hate women.
Yeah,
but
gay
like,
men do not hate women. Like that's
no,
not,
that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like narcissistic men, a lot of them hate women. But like all I'm saying is this, like that, I don't know. I've just been dealing with that stuff since I was in grade school. I used to have these like thick pink octagon glasses and I was chubby and then I wasn't. And then I just got so much hate. So I'm kind of numb to it too.
Oh my God.
So I don't know.
I have these, I have huge calves, you guys. I've talked about my calves before. I have like, and I was called like Popeye legs when I was a kid, and I would not wear shorts at all around people because, you know, and they're actually like really muscular. And then like I would go hiking at Runyon and people were like, nice legs. And I was like, oh, this person likes my muscular calves. But as a kid, I remember even going to church and they made all the kids go up at church and stand in this like 2 rows behind the priest. And I remember these kids making fun of my calves because I was in the first row and they were in the second. And I was like, even at church, I'm getting made fun of. And that is so locked in my head from a young age that I have such an issue. Like I know it's like, but it's a very real thing for me. Like I hate my leg. I'm always want to be in a chair. Like even with the Nick Viall hosting, I was like, God, I would kill someday to be successful enough to host a reunion. But then I was like, but I don't think I would look good in the chair because of my legs. So I don't think I can ever do. No, Lauren, I shit you not. That was the first thought going through my head. Like I can do the questions. I would be excited. It would be so amazing. But I was like, unless they could give me like a blanket or something that I could cover my legs. Like that was we never escape those thoughts really. We can work on them and we can, you know.
You want to get to a point in your healing where you aren't affected by those things, negatively affected by those things, or that your behavior is manipulated by someone's reaction or fear of their reaction or whatever. So, I mean, I've dealt with that and I still do, like, but sometimes I've been like, oh, I don't want to make that video because I'm like, no, like people are asking, it's going to help more people. I could deal with the 10 comments that are rude or whatever. And I have my little delete button, you know? So if it's just solely about you making fun of my appearance, I'm going to delete that. Like, I'm not a big fan of like, you know, putting people down because of their appearance. Like, but if you have a point, like you disagree with me, bring it. Like, that's fine. But
if you leave a hate comment for me, I'm going to bring you into my close circle because I would rather believe bad things than good. No, I totally get what you're saying. And I think that is so healthy. But I think when you throw social media at this level, that these women or the reality TV or even on the Valley, you know, in terms of Jax Taylor and the healing journey that he is on, in no way, shape, or form is being on a reality television good at all for anything besides your bank account in terms of actually healing yourself. Would you agree or no?
Absolutely. And like, it was a little frustrating to watch his whole I'm in rehab thing. And, you know, even the bipolar diagnosis, I think that's BS.
Can they even do, like, I was told conflicting things, Lauren, that sometimes they can't give you that in like a 30-day
that's why I don't believe it. I was just like, what? That's super irresponsible. Your brain is still flooded with so many drugs. Like, you'd have to be not on drugs for like a year to really give someone a true bipolar diagnosis. Just because, you know, your amygdala and everything is just so fried. It's so like, you have to get that kind of in order. And it really doesn't matter. Let's say he has bipolar, which I don't think he really got diagnosed with, but you're still a freaking narcissist. You still have all of the narcissistic defendant, like, you know, saying that Brittany, like trying to guilt and shame like Brittany in every way that she was, all of the defenses, all of the lying, you know, we saw it all. It's all still there. So you can't lean back on like, oh, well, it's because I'm bipolar. No, Jax, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, it's not a get out of jail free card. You still have to participate on this planet. And then, but then to go through this journey, and I keep using Carl from Summer House, is that we saw a little bit of his journey going through sobriety, but that's actually, like, I think in a lot of ways a good example. Like, he's done some bad things. He hurt Lindsay Hubbard, but we've seen him try to move through and try to discover himself and remain true to what he's trying to project. And Jax is kind of at this point, and who knows if this will change, wearing it as this kind of badge of honor that he still then gets to shit talk Brittany and gets to shit talk other people. And in fact, this week's episode, he doesn't get to go to Hawaii, but they're doing a FaceTime call with Jesse and the boys. And they're like, we miss you, dude. And he's like, yeah, I got to get out there and stir up some shit. And I'm like, the fact that you said stir up some shit, I'm like, read the flippin' room. Did they tell you at your mental health facility to get out there and stir up some shit? We would rather see Jax treating his mental health 100% real. I mean, not that I need to see this man broken, but for to say I need to stir up some shit, like you've learned all the wrong lessons from this last 13 years.
Yeah. And also it is a true addiction to like that people have to drama. So you could have like, because narcissists have, I think a lot of them have rage issues and rage addiction, like their nervous system like gets so much dopamine from that. But his addiction to drama is real. And I do think Kristen has a little bit of a drama addiction too. But like Jax's is on another level. And with people that have addiction issues, and there's a big comorbidity between people that are narcissistic and the people that have addiction issues, it often goes hand in hand. Your dopamine receptors are so low, like you need a hit off of something, you need more drama, you need more drugs. And it's like never enough. And so all of that, and he has to choose to regulate that. Like what is gonna be your rock bottom moment, Jax? Clearly it's not your kid. Oh, you know what he also did that annoyed me? He was like, it's been so long since I've seen I don't even know the amount of days. Okay, when a parent hasn't seen their child, they know the amount of hours, they know the amount of days, they know. It's like, I don't know, I just don't even know how long it's been. And that's when he was still in rehab. I get to see my son today. And then apparently he didn't even try to see Cruz when he got out.
That's why the after show is so good, you guys, which we talk about on the after show, is that the Patreon is that we get to see in real time Jax lie and then Brittany actually tell us the reality of that situation. And it's like, I am prone to believe Brittany 100% of the time. Yep. And Jax, I will be prone to believe him 0% of the time, because it's always like the details. And you can catch him even in his own stories changing details, which we did a couple weeks ago. I took what he said on Watch What Happens Live and I compared it to something on the after show in terms of his blood pressure. And the story was very different. In one story, he fell asleep. And the other story, he's out on the couch. And it's just all of these different details. And there's never a lot of pushback on him in the moment. So it's great to have that mirrored with Brittany telling us the reality. And it's really frightening at the same time.
It is. And another thing I want to mention.
Are you able to go over an hour, or you got to get? Okay.
So another thing I want to mention that I don't think we've ever talked about, but we see it in the Valley, is that narcissists often engage in financial abuse. And, Brittany, she signed up for, she's still trying to keep her marriage together at that point. But if you guys don't know the backstory, you might do a better job of it. But like he was going to go to
the mortgage.
Well, no. Before he stopped,
the taxes.
The taxes. He wasn't paying his taxes. Brittany said that he was going to go to prison if basically he didn't bail. So they attached to their mortgage.
Their home loan. Yeah.
Their home loan. So their mortgage doubled so it's like $15,000 they pay every month or something for their mortgage to pay off Jax's tax thing. And so Brittany bailed him out of that. But there's a lot of it's narcissists do this. It's like, look, I'm tied to you. We're tied even more. Right? Because you're paying for everything. And so they do this a lot. And another thing that narcissists do, I just wanted to say this, you're not alone if this is happening to you, that if you don't do that for them, if you don't bail them out of a situation, if you don't share all of your money with them, they're like, oh, you don't love me. Two, you're financially cheating on me. It's their money, right? And especially when women do this, or when men do this to women, it's kind of like, you're financially go provide. That's my opinion about it. It's kind of like, go be a provider, protector. Why do you want her money? But anyway, they really get in your head about money stuff. And so, you see Brittany she's pissed about it now. And then Jax decides, I'm going to stop paying the mortgage. Fine. If you're going to break up this family, then I'm going to do this. And so she's afraid that they're going to lose the house, and you don't even know it's true, right? Because he's lying about everything. So really, like, her cortisol levels are spiked, which is where the narcissist wants to keep you, like, in just flight or fight, like, I'm scared mode. So they run back to you all the time. So anyway, she's just like, you know what? I got my money, whatever. I'm going to do my thing. And so I'm also proud of her for that.
Yeah, people don't realize how hard it is, or even like, I hate to compare the two, but like even like the Diddy Cassie things, or Diddy and Jane Doe and all of this stuff, you know, psychological abuse, you know, like you want to, you know, Brittany has gone along with Jax for so long, and just like, I want this man happy. I don't want him angry. I don't want him to snap. I love this man. I love this man. I'll do anything that he wants, you know. So she's gone out, like, you know, we hear about this with Diddy and Cassie, and, you know, the jury, I think, found it a very hard thing to believe, of how are you saying things like, I love freak offs. It's like, because she didn't want this man to beat the shit out of her, and she loved this man. She loved this man. So the fact that Brittany was able to pull away, and even if there's been little like step backs here and there, or trying to give Jax a little bit, and he tries to take a mile, and then, you know, like all of these things, because he shamed her every step of the way, that the fact that she is out. But my question to you then is, what worries me, and there's been a huge uproar in the Bravo fandom, which I never really know how much that really matters, is fire Jax Taylor. But my thing I keep telling the audience is, well, I'm scared if they do fire him, then I'm scared Brittany really is in danger. Like, at least he's on screen. We can like kind of, but you know what I'm saying? Like, as Brittany slips further and further away from Jax's clutches, even though I don't think he truly loves her in that kind of sexual, sensual way, shouldn't she be worried more? Should he be on reality TV? Should we keep him there so she's safe? And what happens when Brittany actually goes public with somebody fully? Because in this episode, Jesse Lally is dealing with Michelle and the honey man, Aaron, and watching that go away. And Jax in the after show this week was like, I don't know how you do it. So if you're surprised how Jesse does it, what are you going to do when that happens to you? He's going to freak out.
Yes, he is going to freak out. So I think that Jesse has sociopathic stuff. I'll explain the difference. And then Jax is like a very classic, like, narcissist. So the narcissist, it's about me, my validation, da da da. So I do think Jax will find, I think Jax already has a ton of other supply between like his bar, whoever's in his DMs. I think there's a lot of more stuff that we, you know, I don't think like narcissists have a really hard time just being faithful. So that's not what I'm worried about. I do think that, like, you know, the thing is like, you can't enable someone, keep them on reality TV, because then they'll be less dangerous. You know, there's plenty of people that are in very, very like toxic, abusive relationships that aren't on reality TV, that have restraining orders, that have, you know what I mean? So if Brittany wants to stay on reality TV, and like, I love her, I love watching her, and I love her growth, but it's kind of like, are we just enabling Jax? Are we just enabling the situation because we keep waiting for him to actually like have a turnaround? I mean, I feel like they're going to keep him on the show, but is it enabling? I think to me, it wouldn't matter if he's on the show or not. He has to decide if he actually wants to get better. Now, if he was threatened, like, okay, you won't be on the show anymore, then he might be like, no, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better. And here's this whole other storyline.
Well, I think that's why he went to the facility in the first place.
And it was such a half-ass attempt. I mean, like, can you at least?
Well, you know, Lauren, that he had to go back a second time. So this was all filmed in September that he came out, and then in November he had to go back again, and that is allegedly when he has been sober from the November, which he only completed 17 out of the 30 days.
Yeah, I'm not like really believing anything. And then like in that way, but I mean, Jax is going to have a hard time with it when Brittany actually moves on. I think she has a lot more inner work to do. It was, side note, it was really sad when she was dating that guy that was their friend. I can't remember his name. And then she's like, oh my God, he was like sending me a good morning text. I mean, this woman is so deprived. And this is why, like with what's her name? Jesse's Michelle, like when Michelle, or like when you cheat on a narcissist, or, you know, especially when women cheat, and like, but it's because they're so emotionally deprived. They want a hug. They want a good morning text. And like, it was so sad, but I'm so glad that they aired that. Like, oh, I got a good morning text from my new man. Like it was just like, that's,
but then on the after show, you have,
Aaron.
And the after show, I remember that episode, Jax was like, little things are my love language. If I could just get a note saying I love you and support you by the coffee machine, that would be it. I didn't get a gift basket sent to the mental health facility. I didn't get one visitor. I'm like, you didn't need visitors. You seem to be like out and about town every day of that. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Your phone,
it was like, what is not being done for me? I just wanted to, I faked my blood pressure heart attack because I wanted to see people cared. I'm like, how is that? Like, I would imagine this mental health facility is eventually going to go out of business just because of Jax Taylor, because I'm like, oh shit, he learned nothing, No,
I don't think. I mean, I think that they just know his pathology. And then like with Jesse, on the other hand, so the sociopathic, there's a lot of similarities between narcissists and sociopaths, but I feel like Jesse's more sociopathic because he gets so much pleasure out of fucking and with Michelle and just making her upset. And like, you remember when they were talking about at the party, they were talking about, okay, Jesse's like, yeah, I'm going to move to Newport. And then Michelle's getting all reactive. And then Jesse's like smiling. And it's kind of like, Michelle, how do you not know? Like,
I mean, the talking head, he goes, you're damn right. Like, did it feel good? You're damn right it did. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing in that moment.
And then in the after show, he's with the biggest smile on his face. He's talking about how he continuously, like, he's running up Michelle's legal fees, between like, there's like a lot of stuff that they could solve. And he's like acting as his own lawyer, getting so much pleasure and enjoyment out of it. And so with Michelle moving on, it's more about like, oh, I don't have control over you. I can't make you miserable anymore, because they like that. They get pleasure out of people's pain. And so, his whole narrative, like, oh, only Michelle can trigger me the way, No, I think it's just like your main supply of like, and you're just upset because you don't have control over her anymore. Just like, both Jesse and Jax, I'm sorry. Is it Jesse? Yes, I'm getting them
Jesse
confused.
Lally and Jax Taylor, yeah.
Because I'm like, Jesse, the other Jesse. Anyway, so Jesse and Jax are like, oh yeah, our wives will never leave us because Brittany doesn't believe in divorce and Michelle's too weak to leave me. Like, and they both are like, bye. And so they're having this like big, like, ego disruption, which is kind of entertaining to watch. But with Jesse, he does this thing where he starts like, acting like he's emotional. No, you're just mad because you can't torture her as much. And when you see Michelle happy, that pisses you off. So
it's almost like he did not do his evil job well. Like, you were supposed to always be here so I could potentially not give you the love that you needed. And I thought in that confrontation between Aaron, Michelle's new boyfriend, and Jesse, he was like, did you or did you not cheat? And Aaron's just like, no, I didn't. But the funny thing is, it's like Jesse needs to pin this on him and Michelle, because if he wasn't able to pin it, he would actually have to ask himself the question of, did I do this? Like, what actually or ask the why? Why did Michelle, in his theory, go outside of the marriage? Well, she went outside of the marriage because you were not affectionate with her. Mm-hmm. Like all of these things that nobody would consider a good partner, Jesse was exhibiting. So the fact that she had the strength now, like, yes, of course, cheating is wrong. Like, it is wrong, but there are reasons behind cheating. There are reasons, or sometimes I think in Michelle's case, if that did happen, and I don't know if it did happen with Aaron, they're saying no, there is a reason. Look at what she was given. Look
Absolutely.
at what, and she will for sure have a better life without this man. And I feel like he's asking himself the wrong questions. So how do you work with somebody like Jesse to break down that ego and to help him get through the rest of his life with an actual partner that does want to be with him?
Well, people like Jesse don't really go to therapy.
Wait, Laura, what's your thought on men's group? Do you have any men's groups?
I have.
Do you lay hands on chest?
Oh my God, I have opinions about that. Wait, let me answer. So people like Jesse don't really go to therapy, unless it's to get validation, like he did from that creepy coach. I don't like the coach. I'm gonna come out and say it. I don't like the coach. I thought because he was working with them at first, and then he just went into like, then Jesse, and then he made the coach made Michelle like the bad guy, like the villain. No, like if I was in that situation, first of all, I would have been fired because I would have made Jesse take responsibility for his actions. I'm like, let's talk about why Michelle's not here. Because the truth is that when you are in an abusive situation like that, like I was saying before, you're so emotionally deprived. That's why, someone that maybe isn't typically a cheater, is just so hungry to be loved, to get a hug, to get a good morning text. So that's how that happens. And like, I'm not allegedly with Michelle's cheating and all of that, but like, that's how that happens. Now with this men's group thing, first of all, okay. The whole like tactic of screaming in the pillow, like, did you just like go on ChatGPT and like freaking look up a few things like in the car before you got to Jesse's house?
Today we're going to scream into a pillow. And I love that Jesse was like, hell yeah. It's like, today we're going to eat a piece of raw meat and we're going to deadlift something. And that is therapy.
No, like, oh my God. Okay, first of all, because there are certain like retreats that do this. Let me tell you, when you scream into a pillow, what it does is like, you get this release, but you cannot train your brain to scream every time you need to emotionally regulate. What are you getting in the airport? Like, and you're just going to start screaming? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the dumbest thing. If you need to like, if you've never like, if you're like a Michaela type and you've like suppressed so many emotions, okay, maybe like hit a pillow or whatever, but then it's like just to get it activated. But then we have to actually do some work. But you could tell this coach is just like, okay, well, I'm on TV. I could get money from this client. And so and this whole like hand on your chest thing, okay, Luke made a joke like, oh, do I have permission? But that's actually like very accurate.
Consent.
It's consent. Like I would never, ever like suggest like in a group's like, hey, put your hand on. No, it's weird. It's like you're already in this phone, especially with men. And then the things that they were taught, it was just all so ass backwards and wrong.
It was so weirdly cringe. And at the same time, you're like,
it's not how you
I
do
want
therapy.
to encourage people to like try to discover and talk, but like it's just so funny, men kind of just like jacking each other off like about how hard it is to be a man. And it's like, life is hard and stuff, but maybe it's like, maybe we should start with just apologizing to the women that we've hurt. Like we're all talking about it and we're all looking for somebody to excuse us for our own behavior. Maybe it should start with actually apologizing to the women that we've done these things to and then go from there,
Oh my God, it was so infuriating to watch. And it's just like, this is exactly what I don't like with certain, and it's also why I stopped doing traditional therapy. But, when a narcissist goes to a therapist or a coach and like for more than one session, it's usually to enable their behavior. Just like, I feel like that coach is only enabling Jesse and like, you're going to villainize Michelle. Like what good is that going to do to go along with the narrative that Michelle's the bad one? And like, it's terrible. You suck as a coach and I hope they don't have him on again. And that's
Lauren,
totally
it's coming off very jealous right now. You're coming off very jealous.
So
I'm diagnosing you as envious of this life coach.
No, it's terrible. It's a really bad representation of like, what people like me that are actually like good at what I do and actually like invested in helping people. It's like infuriating to watch. And like there's other shows that have been like that, other, coaches I've seen, and like some of them are good, but like he is Scott. That's his name.
Scott.
Not one of them.
Scott.
Not one of them.
We've talked a lot about Jax and a little bit about Jesse, but obviously one of the villains this season is Janet. And Janet and Dodie going like head to head a couple of times, even though, you said earlier Dodie exhibited some behavior throughout her, seasons on Vanderpump Rules. But I think Dodie also is at a very interesting place where she just doesn't seem to give a shit whether you like her or hate her anymore. Like there seems to be this or at least that's what I'm reading. But Janet, on the other hand, it's really weird. Like you encourage people to be like as real as you can, start stuff on reality TV. And she's doing all of these things, but every episode, the audience is just railing against her because, even in this episode, her like saying, we're not invited to this dinner for the engagement. Now it's always going to be, we were on Kristen Doute's engagement trip, kind of just repulsive in a lot of ways. What do you make of Janet and her behavior this season? And I guess last season as well.
So, I mean, I don't know. When I was watching the feud that Janet and Kristen were having, to me it looked like, and let me know what you think, because sometimes like Kristen, I'm just kind of like, okay, I can't with your, but it looked like Kristen is having a lot of, she was having a lot of feelings and a lot of frustrations about her fertility journey.
Yeah.
And I think that some of that got like misdirected towards Janet. And then like the whole thing when Janet was trying to apologizing and it's like they didn't apologize right. Like Janet, it seemed genuine to me. Like at the party, pulled her aside, and then it was
the first
like,
episode, yeah.
Yeah, that's a gaslight apology. It's like, Kristen, come on. Like I didn't perceive it that way. Maybe I missed something, but and then also she said this thing where, she's going after Janet because Janet was talking about Nia and Danny. Oh, I'm just mama bear. But you know what? Nia and Danny are full grown adults with like, a bunch of kids. Like they can stick up for themselves. Like, why are you? No, I just feel like you needed to feed your drama addiction and insert yourself into something. And then like, again, villainize Janet, like, it didn't make sense when she was, and I don't care. I don't like this whole, like, I'm being a mama bear. If you're going to go after my friends, I'm going to come after you. Your friends, like, they didn't ask you to do that.
Well, see, I feel like that is so colored by her career on reality television, because I feel like she is here thinking Janet, or she calls it like fan it, like, you're a fan of the show. You're trying to be me from earlier Vanderpump Rules seasons. I see what you're doing, and you're not going to do it to the people that I am good friends with. Like, I did think it was weird that she forgave Jesse Lally so easily, and I still was like, that's weird. But it is, it's like, this is my territory, step off. And Janet, is like, oh, she's never apologized a day in her life. So Janet is trying to like, Doty's throwing out these rumors that she heard about Jason wearing his wedding ring, which Doty didn't start that rumor. It was brought to her, I think, by Jasmine. Like, everybody moves so weirdly on that show where it makes you not like, I don't think this is a good advertisement for having friends at all, but you're like, everybody's just backstabbing and like telling on each other. But Janet keeps, in terms of just the audience reaction to her, she is the villain according to the audience. Yeah. And in the reality of it, you're saying that, well, she's behaving because Doty didn't really accept her apology, kind of drew that line in the sand. So what is Janet's fault here, if there is fault at all?
What do you think? I'm like, what happened? Why are we like ganging up on Janet? I kind of don't completely. I think
it's because we now love we've lived with Doty for so long that she, it's like that everything comes around. Like, you hate somebody for a long time, and Doty got railed, like throughout the seasons by the fan base. And then you're with them so long that you start to be like, it's like a folk hero. I love Doty now. And so Janet
is Kristen creating that narrative? Is it Kristen like, I'm going to do this whole thing and manipulate this? So no, I've
seen that just from the social media audience for a while of like, Doty, man, classic Vanderpump Rules. Like, they took her behavior that they found repugnant in the earlier iteration of Vanderpump Rules, and now they find it amazing. They find it like not inspiring, but like, wow, what moments. And then I did actually find myself really happy for her with that engagement this week. And I think Janet, the audience doesn't know her enough. What they've heard about her is that she's a fan of Vanderpump Rules. So it's like, oh, here's somebody desperate for fame. And so they're coming in with that assumption. And it's hard because I do know Janet a little bit in real life, and that has not been my experience with her at all in real life. Like, I haven't seen her in like over a year or something, but like, she's always been, I would never have pegged her to be a villain in real life.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I'm not getting that energy at all. I'm not getting any evidence of that. And that's why I feel like it's kind of manufactured by Kristen to put Janet in this like role right now. And then I think that she used Jasmine for that. Go ahead.
But her yelling at El Coyote, not this episode, but the episode before, where Janet had too much to drink, and she was like, "Oh, you can't accountability." Like, she was just popping off, and it did not seem warranted in that situation, and it did seem a little evil at that table.
Yeah, with Kristen's reaction, or.
No, I'm saying Janet's like yelling at Nia and Kristen at the table. And then
that's right.
Doty was like, I'm out. And then Nia was like crying. She's like, oh, all she does is cry when it gets too crazy, But Nia comes from a strongly religious background. So of course she finds this insane.
Yes. And I don't know. I don't know if Janet's just fed up. It's kind of like, what did I do type of thing. I'm just not seeing like a huge reason to just really like get like harp on Janet as much. And like, I'm not I'm not like a fan. I'm not like, I don't like her like I like Brittany. You know what I mean? I love Brittany, but I just, it just seems like displaced a little bit right now, but maybe like more will be saying. And that's what I'm saying.
The other thing about her coming out at Danny, like Dark Side Danny, of keeping that going. That's the other thing of like, because from what we see of Danny, and I got a couple hate comments for this because I was like, listen, if they're going this hard on Danny, they must have more information about Danny than the show is showing us, because it's just like, if you are smart, like Janet does know her way around reality TV, is that you wouldn't go this hard on somebody once they've apologized 3 times, because his behavior, grabbing Jasmine's girlfriend's ass and saying, go get daddy a drink, horrible, horrific, like every right to be mad at this guy. It's creepy. It's disgusting. Obviously he says he's in a blackout state, but anyway, it doesn't excuse it, but once we get to the 3rd apology, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know what else he can do. So I'm like, what else is there? And I feel like they are the audience. I mean, the show is not telling us something, because Danny seems like a very nice guy, a stressed out guy, a guy that, you know, but also seems like Nia and Danny have issues in their relationship, but issues in their relationship that they want to work out together. Right. And I totally respect that.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be that, you know, when people have like that episodic or periodic, you know, drinking that he seems to have, the frustration could be, it's like, okay, well, if you're sorry, like, don't do that again. And it's like, if you know that when you drink, you can't just have one, it's either one or like one becomes 100 or whatever, then don't drink. And so you know, with people like that, I can see like sometimes friends and family get frustrated. They're like, if you're sorry, like, don't give us another reason for you to have to, I don't want to hear you apologize to me again, because you know, so it could be that, you know, when you're friends with someone for a long time and you've seen that happen. And that's, you know, alcoholism is a progressive disease. So like those episodes get more and more frequent. So it could be that. You know, because we don't know everything.
And by the way, alcoholism, I think a lot of people are confused too, going like, well, it doesn't seem like he's drinking every day. He says he isn't drinking every day, but alcoholism isn't necessarily you're drinking every day.
That's why I said, like, so the type of alcoholism that Danny seems to like be portraying, at least in the show, is called episodic or periodic, where you don't drink every day. You're not like, you know, drunk all day or anything like that, like with the typical that we think of. But when you do, you cannot stop. And then it's destructive. Like, I forgot who was saying, like, it might've been Jason, like, yeah, every time he drinks, we get kicked out of bars or whatever. That's not normal. Yeah. Like, you know, I've never been kicked out of a bar. You know what I mean? And so like that type of behavior is what I'm referring, that type of alcoholism. And so, but even with that, it does become more frequent until you finally decide to, you know, seek sobriety or get it under control, whatever you want to do. So that's what I meant by that.
Yeah, no, it seems like, and I think that's another thing. Reality TV has a really interesting way of, you know, kind of exposing things and putting something under a microscope that you don't necessarily even want to admit to yourself, you know, and like Jax has done a great job over 13 years of being able to keep on that path of destructiveness without really having to take a deep look at it. Now we're supposed to, like, you know, bow down by him admitting that he's been on cocaine for, you know, it's like, no shit. We knew, man. We
knew.
I'm glad. I hope you're happy with the admission, but like, it almost felt like, Madonna coming out or Lady Gaga coming out with like a new era as opposed to anything realistic. It was just like, Jax is like, well, let me try the truth here, you know, and see how that plays.
That's what it feels like. It feels so insincere, you know? And so the thing is, though, is that he is forever, you know, a part of Brittany's life. So he's at least gonna, you know, if moving forward, maybe he's not completely on the show as a main character, he's still gonna be there, you know?
Yeah. And I can see him like a friend of capacity, or like how he is now, where you see him like one mini scene, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. I'm like so invested in Brittany's healing. And then even with Michelle, I hope that like some real healing is going on. The honey boyfriend, what's his name? Jason? Aaron. Yeah. So like, it just seems a little fast, you know. I do like, you know.
And she's always like, Isabella says you need to get me a big ring. Like she always like is saying that Isabella's saying things. And I don't think Isabella's saying that, you know.
But I don't like this whole thing of like Isabella even. Okay, I don't know if you remember, but like Michelle was talking about how Isabella was telling Michelle like, oh, there was a girl over, blah blah blah. So now he's using other supply, basically putting your daughter in like as a way to make Michelle get triggered or upset her, because Isabella's like, oh, mommy, there was another girl, over at daddy's place. And now it's like, oh, Isabella wants me to leave Isabella out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Do not say Isabella's name. Yeah.
There should be nothing about it. I don't, I'm kind of more whatever about this. But I don't think don't move in like unless we're getting married type of thing. Then Isabella gets introduced. But I don't know what's going on and why this big rush to just all of a sudden, have a new live-in boyfriend. But
well, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's true love, but it is when that kind of, it is hard. Like, once again, it's like sobriety. You have to get to a place where you're dealing with your own emotions and your own healing and your own trauma. And I would imagine Jesse's provided a lot of that for her. So it's really hard then to insert yourself into a very deep relationship, because that other stuff is going to come out at some point, whether it be now or years from now.
Yeah, if we don't resolve whatever from our previous, like your past relationship, it will show up again until you resolve it. The human brain's like kind of fascinating in that way. It wants us to heal. So it will keep showing us the same type of thing through friends, even, our relationships that we have at work. It can just mirror all of that back to us. It will be mirrored back to you. And
if you don't heal, that means you're perfect for reality television. That means you need to be on reality television. You have been excellent, as you always have. My last thought, though, is you say, you're really rooting for Brittany and stuff, but I always tell the audience, I was like, is this the first reality television show where nobody is aspirational? Where you're like, nobody is like somebody that I'd be like, I'd like to try on their life for a second. Like, there's not one person for me personally that I'm like, God, they're just, I love them all, or I'm so jealous of this person. Nobody. And to me, even in my younger years with like Vanderpump Rules, there would always be somebody I thought was really cool, or somebody. And for the Valley, that's what I find interesting, is that I don't know if I truly like any of them wholeheartedly.
I've never had that with any reality star, like wanted to be them. Maybe like
whatever, Lauren, stop. Give me a break.
Way back in the day when The Real World was on, I did want to like be in that house, like one of them. But
we all wanted to be in the Real World house. It didn't mean we wanted to be. I wanted to like, come on, be my baby tonight. Baba dee da da dee. Sorry.
No, but I do, as a therapist, and what I do in helping people, especially like heal from these toxic relationships. And like, I love what's going on with the Mormon Wives, and especially Layla. Like, I'm excited to see her have a voice, and, and Whitney, I like how she got humbled. Like, I like a lot of their trajectories. Like,
Taylor, we didn't even talk about Jen Affleck. I mean, Jen Affleck.
Oh my gosh. And then Jen.
They just had the baby yesterday, and she's going to be on Dancing with the Stars with Whitney in a couple months.
I'm excited.
But like, what pressure to put on your body after a baby, and like immediately, it's wild.
Well, it is. And, I love that Jen was on the show like that, because a lot of people have that dynamic in their marriage, especially with like a narcissist partner and everything. And so I hope the changes that, what's his name has made, Mr. Affleck, has made Jen.
Zach.
Zach has made are genuine and real. And I do think that, like the other women talk about, like, there are parts of the Mormon culture that enable that type of behavior with the men. And so I do like what's going on. And like, it was so real how when she was just like, I'm not happy to be pregnant, like the whole thing was very real, because sad. I have clients tell me these things, and it was just like to put it on TV and just be like, I'm not happy. I thought it was really brave of her. And you can see her kind of start to wise up, like, on the reunion, the whole like Ben Affleck thing, like she was trying to play it down a little bit, but you can tell in the show, like they were like, no, like his family, you could tell it was like a big joke. Like, this dumb thinks that we're related to Ben Affleck. Let's keep this joke going. She's such an idiot,
I asked her to her face. I was like, what is the deal with the Affleck? I mean, this was months ago. And she was like, listen, to this day, I don't know. Like, it seemed like she still really was going in there, and potentially they're saying this was just a family joke. And I'm like, wow, this is so interesting. This real mixed communication. Also, is ketamine therapy, is that something you do?
No.
Is that real?
That is not a good idea. It only numbs things. I'm not a fan of it at all. It doesn't, I don't think, I mean, maybe it could bring some things to the surface. Like we talked about ayahuasca last time when Jesse was like, it could bring an awareness. Awareness is the first step in healing. To be aware of something. Jax is aware, to put it in perspective. Okay. Jax is aware that he's a narcissistic, whatever. Yeah. It doesn't mean it's doing anything. The healing like doesn't start from that. So I'm not a fan of it. And no, I would never, ever do ketamine therapy.
Yeah, I just read this memoir I think it's called The Tell, about a girl that did MDMA therapy and then unlocked all of these memories of sexual abuse in her school. And I was just like, I didn't even realize MDMA. I was like, I used to do MDMA therapy at concerts. I used to do it at Coachella all the time, like every year. I was like, I just thought I was seeing music, but I was doing real deep therapized work. Lauren, we could go, because we didn't even talk about Demi and her, like if Demi's like a full liar or not. Demi didn't even go there. She said she had to go to Disneyland instead of the reunion, which I believe she just didn't want to be questioned about the Marciano stuff and potentially cheating on her husband. So she was like, sorry, we had a Disneyland trip planned, which is insane.
Oh my God. The stuff with Demi is so deep. And I'll say this one thing. I think that she's so envious. Like there's so much, she has such a scarcity mentality. Like she's envious of the book deal Macy got. And then the Taylor, and then the hair, like Jay-Z, like the whole thing. Like, remember, like, it's just like anyone's success. And then she kind of like sprinkles, she talked about like, okay, I have some financial fear or whatever, like worries or whatever. And so, but you don't have to project all that stuff and like, not be happy for your friends. And so her stuff is deep, and I don't know. Oh, I can't wait to see what really is going on. If Marciano is this pawn, and like, because, she's obviously like tried to manipulate narratives, like, the recording Jen had at the reunion where she exposes Demi for trying to, manipulate, so narrative. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully Mom Talk and Valley Talk will survive both of these seasons. But Lauren Clayton, amazing as always. I always love talking to you so much. How do we discover more about your work or potentially working with you? Because we'll put the website on the show notes and stuff. But what would you suggest? Just go into your website?
Yes. And like information about my courses or working one-on-one with me is like, if you follow me on Instagram, YouTube or TikTok, it's Mental Health Hacker on all of those. And if you click the link in the bio, I have a course on healing from narcissistic abuse and toxic relationships is great. I'm really proud of it. And then, but if you want to work with me directly, we could chat, and you just DM me. DMing me is the easiest way. Like I just can't with emails.
And your website is laurenclaytonhealth.com, correct?
laurenclaytontotalhealth.com.
Lauren Clayton Total Health. All that information will be on the show notes, you guys. But my God, thank you for all of this time. I could have gone for 2 more hours. I mean, this was just flew by. Thank you. And you guys have a great 4th of July holiday. We'll, we're always here, but remember that this is a time to be with your family and friends, and really try to appreciate whatever that looks like for you. But we're always here for you as a show. We've got so many episodes, so there's always something if you need to step away and listen to a madman rant. Okay. Have a great holiday, you guys. Bye.
Bye.